If it's mailbag time, you know what that means. Kris Pursiainen. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. How are you? I'm ready personally for this NBA draft week. I've spent hours upon hours this summer watching tape, as you know. So
I do know.
I'm staring at my physical board here, all my little cutouts.
I told you I admired that. That's amazing. Everybody, if you're listening,
here's my friends.
Yeah, watch this on YouTube so you can see the cutouts in person. It's pretty good.
You got. Hold on. One of my favorite. You got a book night. You know,
is it spelled right?
Oh, you made me drop.
Name. Oh
you
no! Now we lost James Booknight. This is bad. Luckily, he's gonna go. Okay, yeah, it looks right.
My handwriting looks like hieroglyphics, but it's spelled right.
Yeah, no, I think I'll say this. I really like this draft season more than the last one because the last one was never ending. And this one, at least, it felt fairly self-contained because the Knicks got eliminated, a little less than 2 months ago. So it's like it was the perfect amount of time to dig in. Although, actually, truth be told, I probably could have used a little bit more time only because and maybe we'll get into this today, the range of prospects that we really need to pay attention to is basically like everybody from, the mid-teens or the or low teens even to the, like the 40s. I mean, depending on if they take someone higher at 32, if they keep 32, all that. So a lot of work to be done. You want to get to the questions?
Yeah. So as usual, I'll provide the little informational dossier to our listeners. John has not seen the questions. I have sorted them for him, and we'll lob them up one at a time for him to knock out of the park. Right, John?
I will take.
Right, John?
I will take swings.
Right, John? Knock him out, right? All right, so let's get started.
I will be aggressive at the plate. How about that? I will be aggressive at the plate.
I like that. It's about the mindset.
Who's the baseball? Chris Davis, right? Andrew, just give me a thumbs up, right? The guy who struck out like a bill. Yeah, okay.
There it is. There's the thumbs up.
It is 2021. Everybody strikes out like a billion times in baseball. So
this is good to know.
Yeah. Ryan Howard would be an option. Mark Reynolds. Now we're getting way too literally inside baseball. Go ahead, Chris. Take it away.
Yes.
James has our first question. He wants to know, and I thought this was an interesting first one to start with. What do you think draft scouts, professional or on Twitter, place too much of an emphasis on when evaluating players in the draft? Is it as simple as the draft is a crapshoot, or do you see like themes?
This is a really good question, and I'm confused as to how to answer it because I think that this draft cycle in particular is showing us that some of the things that teams may have placed too much emphasis on in the past, maybe teams are like smartening up. So like, I mean, we're seeing this, right? With Duarte, with I know, you're not as big a fan of him as I am, but Trey Murphy, like there's.
I like Trey. I think the shot's getting a little overbought right now is all.
That's fair. But you also said like he couldn't hold a candle to Moody, which whatever. We don't have to get into.
He could not.
I guess the point is that it feels like the players that are moving up the draft board as we're getting closer to the draft are guys who, to borrow a Bill Simmons phrase that he's used for a very long time. I know you probably don't listen to Bill Simmons, but like, can I see this guy playing, 25 minutes in a meaningful high level? Like he always uses like game 7 of the finals, but like just a high level playoff game. Because I think that what that player is in the game today in terms of who could actually survive on the court and who can't is maybe getting a little bit more specific in terms of archetypes. And it seems like teams are paying, very close attention to that. So I guess the way I'll answer this is that maybe we're not paying attention now the pendulum has shifted too far in that direction. And I'm going to be very curious to see where, just to throw a couple names out there, they both happen to go to the same school, Jaden Springer and Keon Johnson. And if you want to throw Zaire Williams in this mix too, I'm trying to think. We could throw Mr. Cooper in there too, Sharif Cooper. Guys who are on the younger side, showed some serious flaws at college, but like the skill is there, like the blueprint is that there's stuff there. They're young. Are those guys going to go too low? And our team's placing a little bit too much emphasis on, being able to visualize it in terms of like what the player is able to do and how they'll be able to contribute. And then the last thing I'll say is how much does that have to do with GMs just working on different timelines now? Like, not to say that there aren't still organizations out there that have patience. Like, I'm pretty sure the Magic, the Thunder. Am I forgetting anybody? Like, who else is like, yeah, we're fine punting the next, like, even like the next year. Like, who do we know is going to punt next season? I guess you say Detroit, but like, that's not really an applicable conversation.
No, Detroit isn't punting. They're going to be in the play-in. Watch.
They might. But like, so in terms of teams, like just like clearly are going to be very
so maybe like, Washington would be the only one. If
depends. Yeah.
They do the Beal deal.
Yeah.
That would be in that conversation as well.
Yeah,
I would say for the question, I think draft Twitter really tends to underrate just like the value of physical tools. And then I feel like TV scouting people like overrate the physical tools. So like Wiseman is a guy who draft Twitter might have underrated and TV Twitter might have overrated just because the large man can cool dunk often. So I won't revisit the history of James Wiseman on this very podcast.
We don't have to. It's all there for posterity's sake. If people
to keep this conversation holy, but I will say that I think physical tools are a really interesting topic to analyze the analysis of.
I like the way you put that.
Yeah. Next up, we've got you knew it was coming. You knew this question was coming. Matt H wants to know if the Knicks make all three of the higher picks, 19, 21, and 32, who are your ideal draft picks and who are your, like, what is your nightmare scenario? Who are your prospects you fear they take, both sides of the coin?
Oh man. How do I not give a chicken shit answer for this? The reason I'm fearful of giving a chicken shit answer is like, as I've written about recently, and I think as I've said on this podcast, I'm not in love with any of these guys. Like the guys that I've watched tape of and I think work and I'm high on, or I think I like maybe a little bit more than consensus. If the Knicks didn't take them, I would not necessarily be disappointed because they have way more intel than we do as far as the makeup of these guys, like what they, how their work ethic is, like all that stuff. Like, regardless of where you came down on the Obi Toppin pick, I'm not saying you, but just you listening out there,
right?
Obi Toppin pick a year ago. What revealed itself over the course of the year, at least to me, and was very obvious, is the fact that this kid is like just beyond relentlessly positive, all for the team, just like the work at all of that stuff. You could have maybe gleamed some of that before last year's draft. I did, podcasts with people who covered him. Like, I didn't know it was to that extent. So,
right.
Who knows what we don't know? Yeah. The mayor of Brooklyn, baby. Soon to be mayor of Manhattan, hopefully. I am of course filibustering. Let me give an answer. The only guy that I really the only guy that I really don't want, and this is maybe a little harsh because I have no interest in Jalen Johnson. Like if
no, that's okay. I thought I was going to be upset. Never mind.
No, if Jalen Johnson's there at 19 and they take him because it's like, well, someone's got to take him. The talent is there. Like. And I don't think they will personally, because he's the one guy that has not been reported as having like met with them, worked out for them, been connected with them in any way. And I don't know. you're entitled to your own opinion on what happened at Duke last year. I personally would be happier if that guy was not on the team next year. In terms of my ideal, oh goodness. I mean, yeah, I'd be psyched if Duarte fell to us at 19. That's probably not going to happen. Trey Murphy's probably not going to happen. So I'll toss those guys out. I would be happy with. All right, I'll give you 3 names. Cam Thomas. I've really talked myself into Cam Thomas.
I'm really surprised by you mentioning his name here. I had no idea. I had no idea that you were such a large fan of LSU.
I'm not a huge fan of Cam Thomas.
No, you're not. You just blog about him every time because he crosses your mind.
Because here's the thing: the efficiency is poo, right? It is poo on a stick. And he really, he didn't defend, he didn't pass. We know what he didn't do. I just can't get over, if they do indeed stay at 19 and 21, passing on a kid who did do the stuff that we saw. I mean, you can't make that up, right? It's, you can't make up what we saw on tape.
And that's not in a condescending way. Like he's legitimately just a freaking bucket getter. I don't know how else to put it.
So if they're going to go with Cam at one of 19 or 21, then I would not mind if they went a little safer with the other pick. So I'm going to go ahead and I will give them, who do I want to give them? Who's not going to fall to 32? No, I'm going to go with Trey Mann. Fuck it. Okay. Trey Mann, let's go big or go home. Trey Mann, Cam Thomas, and then who would I be like jumping for joy if he fell to them at 32? Because I don't think any of these guys. I mean, Quentin Grimes. I don't think Quentin Grimes is falling. I'm not even going to mention Butler. Butler's not falling. Cooper's. I mean, there's no chance Cooper falls to 32, right?
So that was the first name that popped in my head. Is like he's been mocked that late by guys who are allegedly in the know, but I just can't. There's no way. There's no way. See it. It takes one team. Someone's going to do it. Top 20.
How about one of Bones Highland or Miles McBride? Those are two.
Even did a deuce. Yeah, I knew it. I have those guys almost back to back on my board. They move like as a pair on my board because I have Bones slightly higher because the shooting, but I really love both of those guys. And I think, well, I could save it for later in the. There's a question, but like okay. Deuce man would be a fantastic fit under Tom Thibodeau here.
Deuce Man is also a great nickname. What's up, Deuce Man? I like that, right? Deuce Man. I can see that on the back. Like if you're so old. If you saw a Deuce Man on the back of a like jersey, like a homemade jersey, and it's just a Deuce Man, I'd be like, wow.
What's wrong with just Deuce? I feel like Deuce is like the sickest nickname.
It's got to be Deuce Man. Has to be Deuce Man. Next question.
I feel like I'm not even going to explore this. I can't.
Probably for the best.
I'm going to make you put on your Jeremy hat. Okay. And that's the direction I'm going to send this in next. Jason Meredith, friend of the green room, I will say. There are rumors that the Jazz and Mavs are trying to clear cap space. Any ideas on how the Knicks can capitalize?
Are there rumors that the Jazz are trying to clear cap space? I may have to call bullshit on all the respect to Jason. I love Jason. He always brings the heat. I'm assuming he's getting this from the Joe Ingles trade thing.
Yeah, that's where my mind went.
Yeah, because he's apparently him and Bogdanovich are apparently available. Unless I'm really, really off in my assumption, there's no realistic world where Utah gets like far enough below the cap to be able to do any appreciable thing with that money, especially since the Mitchell extension kicks in. They would have they just signed Jordan Clarkson to the extent they're not going to be a cap space team. There's no realistic path for them to be a cap space team. If you're asking me can we capitalize on them looking to improve their team? My assumption is that they're looking to move Ingles and Bogdanovic potentially to upgrade. I'm not sure how we'd help them there. So I don't think there's a match there. The Mavs, actually, that I will speak to because Mark Stein had a tweet before, not in his newsletter, but a tweet in which he referenced the Mavs potentially being after Kyle Lowry. And also wanting to hang on to Tim Hardaway Jr. Just very brief bit of cap nerdery. Tim Hardaway Jr.'s cap hold is monstrous because of how much money he makes. And they would actually be wiser to just get his new contract on the books sooner. That's actually going to be cheaper in all likelihood than his cap hold. If they do that and they don't move any of their other salaries, and wait for it, Josh Richardson opts into his player option, which again, Josh Richardson played like 8 minutes in the first round of the playoffs. He's going to opt into that player option. I have to think then they need to move salary if they want to have any chance of affording Kyle Lowry. Now, they could just send some players to Toronto and do a sign and trade, and then obviously include a pick or 2 picks to make that worth it for the Raptors, which is what I would assume that they would try to do. But if the Knicks could potentially be the team that inherits a Josh Richardson, I don't know. Do we like anybody else on the Mavs roster? I wouldn't mind taking on a year of Josh Richardson if I got something out of it. I don't know what I need that something to be. I think I know where your mind's going to go.
I'm not even a huge Jalen Brunson guy. I'm not even a giant, because the thing is, paying him what he's projected to get paid does not move me at all. So like,
that's fair. But
you want to get crazy, talk about flipping them their 23 pick back, grab something back in the size of 6'0" Brunson. People, I don't know, 6'2" maybe. Everyone complaining about Sharif's height and then wants Jalen.
We spoke about this, I think, on the pod a few weeks ago, where like there's a lot of ways that we could help the Mavs. There aren't a ton of ways the Mavs could help us. Again, I think I spoke about the fact that the 23 pick is way more valuable to them than I think it is to us right now. In short, would I take on Josh Richardson? Here's the question. What would you give up to get Josh Richardson and Jalen Brunson? I would certainly give up I would certainly give up 32.
32 and their 23 pick back.
Or that's way too much.
You're the 20. So I know you have PTSD from undervaluing the Mavs pick from like all season, and then that pick isn't going to be worth anything.
No, I know, but it's worth a lot to them, which is why just to throw. I personally think 32 for Brunson and Josh Richardson, that's a fair transaction, because I think in a vacuum, Jalen Brunson is probably worth like a first round pick in the 20s where he's at right now, because he's like
but
solid.
Then he has to get paid, and you're helping them by taking Richardson.
Maybe that might actually. No, that's fair.
The Mavs wouldn't do it though, but
it depends how much do they want Kyle Lowry, and again, this is all.
Kyle Lowry doesn't want to go to.
Listen, I have no idea what Kyle Lowry wants, and I also have no idea. Maybe Toronto would be happy to take on, Josh Richardson. We don't have to talk about this for any longer, but it's just, I think there's definitely a way for those two teams to come together on another trade. I don't know exactly what it would look like.
What crossed my mind with Utah was that they have the 30th pick and we have the 32nd, and like, I don't know, swapping those and just taking something on from them, but is that worth it for them? Like, does that move them? I don't think so.
I doubt it.
All right. Next up, I'm gonna go in the direction that I hinted earlier.
Okay.
Chetnik wants to know, shouldn't we draft the best point guard ready to play Tibbs' style of point guard? And who would that be?
So Tibbs' style of point guard is a guy who drives a lot.
Drive and defend is what always comes to my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think defending is like, I don't want to get off on a whole tangent here, but like Derrick Rose isn't a good defender, but Tibbs could rely on him because he knew Derrick Rose was a veteran and could execute basic principles. Like, he knew what he was going to get from Derrick Rose. What he was going to get from Derrick Rose wasn't necessarily anything special. But this then speaks to, I don't know that any rookie in the range that the Knicks are going to get is going to, well, actually, let me rephrase that. There are some rookies in the second round who are very good defensively, who might be very good defensively immediately, at least on ball. But like, it's really, 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 really rare for a rookie to be able to execute off ball concepts really well. Obviously, it took Obi a while, which is, I think, part of the reason that Tibbs hesitated to play him big minutes early on. I don't know. I mean, I guess it would be Cooper, because Cooper does put a fair amount of pressure on the rim. I don't know. Like, the Knicks have a hole at point guard, so just draft the best point guard available at the spot that they draft. I don't know that logic checks out for me, because you're assuming that you could just draft your point guard of the future. I don't think the Knicks are in a position. I think the Knicks there's one conversation to be had that the Knicks should draft someone that is going to play next year. I think that's a more valid conversation than the Knicks need to draft a point guard to play next year. If they love one, great. I personally am not of the mindset that, like, if they don't do that, this draft is going to be like a waste or a failure or anything like that, because there's different ways to address that position. Like, if you don't like any of these guys as a potential future starter, or at least a potential future high-level backup, then go, do whatever else you're going to do. Give 2 years and $30 million to Reggie Jackson or something,
Yeah.
No, Cooper would be my answer to this question.
I think people misconstrue like the effect that Tibbs's desires and likes and whatnot will have on the actual roster. Like, people are, I don't know, a lot of people said, oh, well, Frank is totally dusted because Tibbs is a defensive coach and he didn't play Frank, so no one's going to like Frank. And it's like, Tibbs is trying to get 100 points a night out of this team. Like
yeah. So all NBA coaches have certain things in common. Coaches don't like to, like, Frank's hesitant. There's not a coach in the league who likes to play a guy who is on the hesitant side. And that's why Frank is now on his fourth head coach, and they all have the same.
Relax with the Frank slander. It's not
Frank slander. It's just like, he needs to get over that. I think he will.
Yeah. To throw a bone in your direction for once, talk about quick decision making and non-hesitance, and there's your Cam Thomas case right there. He makes decisions very quickly. All right.
I mean, but again, there's a guy who, like, from day one, he will be able to contribute to what you're trying to do. And I think if Tibbs has his druthers, he's going to get a guy in this draft that could come in and be a contributor right away. I don't think he cares as much what position the guy plays.
No, Thomas can definitely come in and just put the ball in the bucket. And
also, sorry, one other thing. And like, Mike Vorkanoff did a great job writing about this when Tibbs was hired. Tibbs has actually shown himself, if you look at the numbers and the stats, he's shown himself to be one of the more malleable offensive coaches that we have in the league. He adjusts really, really well to personnel. Case in point, last year, he was like, the best thing I have on this team is Julius Randle. Okay, let's figure out how to use that to our advantage.
Do that. Yeah.
They did.
The great David Fizdale may have been on to. No. Next question. Spider-Man has our next question. Shout out to over there in Queens, where he hangs out. Give me your most shocking but realistic thing that the Knicks front office would do on draft night.
Shocking but realistic. Fuck. Okay. If they, no, that's not real. I was looking at, I don't know how. This is a really tough one, because I can think of a lot of shocking things that they could do, but I don't know how many of them are realistic. I guess taking on Because here's the thing, you can't do anything with free agency because you can't execute any sign and trades on draft night because the free agency hasn't started. And we talked about this the other day, me and Jeremy, about how that would obviously send up some red flares at the league. I think if they took on, is taking on Kevin Love with Colin Sexton, that's definitely, I think that's shocking, right? Is that realistic? I don't think that's realistic. I don't think
Brock Aller would have a large stroke.
I don't think there's any universe where they would, is taking on Russell Westbrook's contract realistic? That would shock the fuck out of me. Okay, I'll give you this. Trading for Brogdon. How about trading their entire...
That was going to be my answer.
Trading their entire draft, or like maybe 19, maybe like their entire draft on like the 23 Mavs pick or something for Brogdon. But again, even that, it's like all we're reading out of Indiana is they want to get better, so they're going to trade their starting point guard.
Yeah, Rick Carlisle would not be very happy about that.
Like, where's the three-way? Again, you could get crazy with this shit. Maybe, Indiana makes a play for Bradley Beal and like we get Brogdon and they get a bunch of picks from us as part of the, but again, I'm trying to keep this realistic. It's really, I think the answer to this question is they're probably not going to do anything that shocking because I just don't see any of this truly shocking stuff being realistic, if I'm being honest. And sure enough, I'm going to be wrong and they're going to do something crazy. So I wish I had a better answer. I don't. It seems like everybody's everybody's priorities in the league right now in terms of all teams are just so clear right now. The teams either want to be good or there's very few teams that like don't care about being good, as we spoke about before. But like there's so few of those teams, and the teams that don't care about being good already have picks and they don't want necessarily the 19th and 20th. So
can a light bulb went off. CJ McCollum ends up in orange and blue would be.
So like a Dame trade goes down on or before the draft. And like, that's one of the repercussions from it.
They go and get Simmons and we are one of the teams lined up to try to capitalize off of their need of having one less CJ on the team. We could help out,
so basically
get ourselves
Portland decides that they want to make a Dame trade, and that part of the Dame trade is that they want as many picks from this draft as possible. And so 19 and 21 are like a deal breaker, and we give them up for CJ. Sure, that's fine too. Yeah.
That would be super shocking, but not. Is this an Andrew chime in?
Yeah, doesn't the same principle with Carlisle and not want, like, just took over a job and not wanting the roster to blow up, doesn't that also apply to Portland?
Well, Carlisle just wants wins as badly as Thibodeau does. So, and I won't say as bad because no one wants to win more than Tom Thibodeau. But I think the concept of trading out McCollum and getting help back is different from trading out Brogdon for 2 shots at players that might be as good as Brogdon.
And there's also a difference there. I don't know who's calling the shots in Indiana, but I know it's not Malcolm Brogdon. It's Kris Pursiainen. We know who's calling the shots in Portland. And if that dude is like, all right, peace, everything else goes to shit.
I guess my thought with Portland is Dame's a little busy at the moment, and not that he can't multitask, but embarrassing the country on the international stage.
Not a top 10 player.
Regardless if he's 11 or 12, Chris, he's like, not going to be in the business of trying to force his way out on draft night. My suggestion to this was much smaller in scale, and it's that Mitch gets traded on Thursday.
You know what?
That's a good answer.
Yeah, sure. I can see that. Absolutely. Again, this should not be a secret at this point. I continue to remain dubious that the Knicks are going to invest long-term money in Mitchell Robinson, and we don't need to talk about the reasons why on this pod. Chris and I, we've spoken about it off air. Andrew, what were you going to say? Sorry.
Well, just
I was killed
as a result of them trading Mitch. It would be like Mitch and 19 to move up to get Duarte or Murphy or somebody around that level. And then with 21, they take Jackson, and there's your replacement for Mitch.
I love Jackson, man.
Mitch and 19 or Mitch and 21
gets you to 13.
Gets you to, I mean, I would imagine. See, but again, there's a trickle down effect here because the Warriors, I long saw them as a Mitch destination, and they have a center. But what if their center's on the move and someone else wants James Wiseman, potentially someone in Washington? Like, there's just who else would trade? Hold on, can we look at the draft order real quick? Who else would trade for?
Yeah, so
Mitch.
The Spurs are 12, right?
I don't see that. I don't see Indiana has 2 centers. I don't think they need another one, and not to mention the guy they drafted a couple years ago. Oh God, who's the guy that Fuddy runs the parody account for? Goga Bitadze.
I was going to say, I'm going to let you struggle through this because I like watching John try to remember foreign draft prospects.
I remembered it.
I told him a couple months ago to keep an eye out for Vrenz Bleasenberg, and he was like, that's not a real thing.
And he is a real thing. Here, 11, Charlotte is the
Jones. They're going to want him there, I feel like. Try to give him a center instead of going out and getting a chance at one.
But that's the thing about Mitch right now is like, and again, this is people are gonna get mad and it's gonna come off sounding like I'm down on Mitch. But the reality is he's a 7-footer who just broke his fucking foot several months ago. So if you're Charlotte, you're gonna give up the 11th pick in the draft to take on the guy to sign him to a new contract. And like, I'm not.
It's why Golden State makes sense because he's not going to play.
Wiseman.
Like they have Wiseman, and then Mitch is your backup. And then if you decide to trade Wiseman after you see that Mitch is durable enough to, although I guess in this scenario,
my take is that Mitch would start over Wiseman.
I mean, okay, so then maybe you're cutting your losses, and Mitch is your insurance policy.
I don't see Golden State being in the business of like Mitch is there. Well, look, we can move on because again, you could go down so many rabbit holes with this. I mean,
listen, I know Mitch, and like Mitch's perception is around the league is different from fans. But if you're trying to tell me that like Wardell, Stephen Curry, returning Klay Thompson, Draymond, who for as much as we give Draymond crap for Draymonding, like is a good basketball player, could not turn having Mitchell Robinson, Mr. Go-Go Gadget at center into a positive experience. Like,
well, they can. I'm not saying they can't. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Find out in a couple days. Next question.
We're talking about 5s. So I'm actually going to do something I don't often do, and that is switch a question up in the pecking order because I want to get this out now
on the fly.
I'm usually very serious about my pre-pod question sorting, but I have to get this one out. Mike, and Oscar ask, does Usman Garuba have rim protecting defensive center and stretch 5 offensive potential? Could he back up Mitch, play next to Obi, freeing Toppin to be the roll man, or am I channeling Steve Mills and I just want all of the power forwards?
I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting Garuba. I mean, he's 6'8". So, but then again, something I've been wondering for some time now in the league is like, what is the intersection of height and rim protection? Because it's weird because you watch these teams succeed in the playoffs that don't play a center, and they seem to bend the rules, but they're also able to bend the rules because of the specific personnel that they have. Now, Usman Garuba strikes me as someone who allows you to bend some rules because of the different things he could do on the defensive end. I have no idea if he's going to turn into a stretch guy. Who knows what his work ethic is and all that. Maybe it's possible. He's interesting. I mean, the CAA connection, recent CAA signee. So there's that.
Not just CAA. You know who his agent is, right?
Is that Leon's kid? Leon's son. Okay. So
Sam.
That's, yeah. Listen, if they draft him, I'd be all for it because, again, that's a guy who it feels like a smart team is going to draft him because, again, it's like we know he can do this thing really well. You just saw it in the Olympics, or I guess when did he face the U.S.? He faced them in like a preliminary game. So, and it's like if this other part of the game comes along, it's like, well, now we really got something here. Like I'd be totally cool with that. And come what may. But again, he's a guy who's going to be able to get on the floor for you because even if he doesn't turn into a stretch big, if he can defend the post, which he certainly can, whether he's like a rim protector or not, I know I could put that guy in the post and I'm going to be okay with that. So, yeah.
I think if we trade Obi Toppin this offseason, which I'm not sure we will at all, I would currently say that we probably won't. If I had to guess, but like, holy crap, would Garuba answer a lot of just like you could play small because you could play Randall and Garuba. He's 6'8", yes, but he has a 7'3" or 7'2" wingspan.
Yeah, but play them together.
That's what I'm saying. You play Randall and Garuba together, you can go small in a way that Randall and Obi doesn't allow you to because you can hold up on defense. It's not a question. You can do it. But you could also play small in a way that playing Randall and Obi to like you could play Obi with Garuba, you could play Randall with Garuba, and you could still have a starting center. Provide you just probably don't want to be paying that guy a ton of money. I actually, you know what? The lineup, like talk about looking at that Atlanta series for like answers and not as just a failure. Like lineup versatility is definitely something we could use. And holy crap, would Garuba address that? He's really high on my board. I've loved him through the whole process. And I think I just buy him as a high level NBA contributor. Like he's the type of guy I'm just like, he's going to figure that out. Like, oh, well, where does that'll be figured out. I love him. I love the kid.
He's already, he was above 30% from three last year on, albeit extraordinarily limited sample size. Maybe not as limited sample size as Jaden Springer, but close. And he's young. He's barely 19. So I'd be down with that.
All right, now I'm gonna piss you off. Now we're gonna explore. We're gonna really explore Macri's nightmares. We dipped our toe.
Why?
We dipped our toe in early because this is fun for me, John.
I know
That's
it is.
why.
I know it is.
So Jacob, RJ Pete Quad season of Knicks Film School Mailbag fame because you like his @name. What draft scenario would have you genuinely upset? Like angry, writing, podcasting, discussing, etc.
I'm just looking at KOC's latest mock. He has Duarte falling to New York at 19, and he has them taking Zaire Williams at 21. I wouldn't mind that. Again, I'm not a fan of Zaire, but I would mind that, which leads into my answer to this question, which is that it's really hard for me to think of a scenario that would really piss me off. I guess so this is tough because me and Prez kind of talked about this a little bit towards the end of yesterday's pod. And like from a philosophical basis, it doesn't seem smart to use 19 and 21 to move up and select one player to go from 2 bites at the apple to 1 bite at the apple. Unless, of course, the bite that you're taking is like, that bite is going to pan out. And I just don't know. But sorry, let me take a step back. Not only that it's going to pan out, but that bite has upside. And I just don't know where that pick is in this draft. Like, yes, you may still be able to trade, even though they were allegedly rebuffed by the Warriors to get 14 with 19 and 21. You may still be able to get Duarte. I just wrote a whole thing about Duarte. I love Duarte. He's going to be a great fucking player. Do I think that they should give up the second bite at the apple to go get him? But even that wouldn't piss me off. I would be like, okay, well, clearly they think this guy is going to be an important rotation player on a winning team for the next decade. And they're going to get the next 4 years of that decade for no money. And the other thing I will say, and again, I'm sorry if this sounds like a cop-out answer, but it's my honest answer. I'm not going to sit here and lie. This is one piece to the puzzle. we have no idea what the other pieces are going to be. Not only because A, free agency has and trades haven't even happened yet, but B, this is this year 2 of Leon, Wes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people had a lot of questions about some of the stuff they did over the course of year 1. Now, looking back, 16 months after Leon got officially hired, 17 months, whatever it's been, we could sit here and be like, okay, these guys seem to have a clue what the fuck they're doing. So for me to react on draft night to something that they do and be like, these are a bunch of assholes, they're idiots. Like, I don't know. I guess it would be like trading all their picks for a veteran player that I just don't like. Who would that player be? Who would that player be for you, Chris? I'm going to look at the NBA standings real quick, and I'm going to think of a player.
I was going to say that if they, and this is not like, people have to understand, I very much enjoyed watching Davion Mitchell in college. I enjoy his interviews. If they took all like 19, 21, and 32 to trade up, and because I'd be so upset if they'd used all their picks to land Davion Mitchell, I would be like, okay, so that was all for nothing. All that draft research was for nothing. This is just, I wouldn't be like, oh, we're doomed as a franchise. I'm going to cry now because we passed on Tyrese Halliburton for Obi Toppin. But I'd just be like, what the hell are we doing? You know. But
again, the guy who's hopefully has the most say in the room about this pick, Walt Perrin, is a guy who has a pretty decent history of trading up, at least in terms of identifying that the guy he's trading up for is like worth doing it. And again, I know it does not necessarily mean that
he traded up for Trey Lyles, right?
No, he traded Trey Lyles to move up to get Donovan Mitchell.
So then there are moves he's done. Like there are certain trade ups that are bad. Also, like you have your hits and misses. So
he's had misses. I mean, Dante Exum. I'm not sure that'll go down as like a legendary miss because there was really no obvious pick at that point. But like he also traded up for Deron Williams a decade before Davion. I'm getting my Mitchells confused. Donovan.
He picked Deron over Chris Paul. I'm nitpicking, but there's a million. Like, no, he didn't. Obviously. Oh, did he not? Did he not?
So then Paul. It was Paul. Then.
But he wanted. They wanted. I remember reading all about this front office because I was doing my Hayward piece for SI, and like
maybe they wanted him all along. I have no idea. But Chris Paul went.
Isn't Brandon Roy the guy that they traded for Darren Williams? That he had the chance to take Brandon Roy and he traded Brandon Roy and took Darren Williams instead. So Chris Paul had already been off the board.
So the guy that was actually made with the pick was a high school player who turned out to be nothing, but who had a lot of buzz at the time. I want to say there's like a Q in his name. I'm going to look it up right now. Feel free to edit out my filibustering or leave it in. I don't really care. No, of course, I'm looking at the wrong guy.
Is this who Portland took, the high school player?
Martell Webster. There was no Q in Martell Webster's name. Yeah. So that's the high school player. So he oh my God. And you're right, Chris. I owe you an apology.
Oh,
he did pass on Chris Paul to take Deron Williams. Wow. Kris Pursiainen. I'm wrong.
What year was that?
05.
Before you were born. It's 2000.
I was 3.
You were 3. Bad job by me. I forgot that
you know what? Before we get in, let me just say that when you say Darren Williams, I have seen him play live at IZOD when he was a New Jersey Net. But what will always pop first in my mind is his Sweet Life of Zach and Cody appearance.
I have no idea what that is. Once upon a time, there was a legitimate.
You just upset a lot of people.
I'm sorry.
By not.
Chris, have you seen Ghostbusters?
Okay, next question.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, there was a legitimate Deron Williams, Chris Paul debate that has long since been over. In any case, I think looking back on that, even though he passed on Chris Paul, it is looked at as a good trade.
No, I said from the jump, I'm just nitpicking. Like that's a good move. Objectively.
I don't even know how we got. Oh yeah, moves that we would hate if the Knicks ended up making. Like if they traded their entire draft and brought in, D'Angelo Russell, like that would piss me off I don't know.
I have thoughts that have been already expressed by my face and reaction to that. I'll leave the D'Lo slander off this pod. I'll spare him.
I'm very kind.
I'm going to, I want to say too, that live update that the Barnes at 5 betting line just keeps getting worse and worse odds wise. I think that might be lighting up. Yeah. I got it no, I didn't. I didn't do anything actually. I was looking at getting it at minus 105 a couple weeks back, but I decided not to ultimately for legal reasons. And now it's at minus 200. So that would be a really great investment by anyone who did have the wherewithal to get it at minus 105 a couple weeks back. Ryan Warren wants to know, if you had to bet money on who the Knicks walk away with, who it would be. Now I'm going to throw you a little extra room to play with here and say that, no, you don't have to do every pick. Just one player, any of the picks that, you had to bet money. Who would you throw your cash on?
I gotta. I was gonna say Isaiah Jackson.
I like it.
I think that's my answer. I will also, if I can give a couple more honorable mentions.
Go ahead.
I think there's a real chance they take Cam Thomas, and that's not based on any information. I don't know. I don't know anything. Just for anybody wondering, I know literally fucking nothing. I've heard nothing about who they like or other than what I reported about the workout. I have no idea who they're high on other than what other people have reported. Yeah, but I
like Duarte, and then that got confirmed, and that's all I know.
I just I could say Murphy would be another honorable mention if they packaged 19 and 21 to move up to 15 and took Murphy. I think that's close. So Jackson would be number 1. Then I'll actually go Murphy 2. I think the Warriors want Duarte. I think the Warriors are going to take Duarte. I would go Cam Thomas 3, and I'll go Sharif Cooper number 4. I think there's some validity to that.
Yeah, I think Duarte, with our team, so I've been pointing it out on Twitter, the connections are multiple. There's the whole Oregon and DePaul thing with Kenny Payne. Real. Stubblefield, close friend of Wesley, lots of intel on Duarte. And then they have they just know everyone. They know everyone that knows Chris Duarte, and they definitely like him. But I can't see him not going to 14. Him not going at 14 to Golden State, like you just said. It seems written on the wall.
Why else would Golden State clearly turn down the deal because they want someone at 14 that they know the Knicks are trying to get. I don't know. We'll see. But I just listen. Maybe it'll be Duarte.
I gotta say, Isaiah Jackson does not bring the box score stats that many fans would like, to see, I guess, from a first round center. But holy crap, is that kid going to be a problem on defense? So
listen, man, Isaiah Jackson, he'll fly all over the place. You're not that dude's he will help you on defense.
So it's a little mini Mitch Sitch. I think it is. I really think it is.
And again, similar conversation to Duarte versus Reggie Bullock. What is Reggie Bullock going to cost? What is Duarte going to cost over the next 4 years? Whatever you think Mitch is going to get, $10 million a year, $12 million a year, $15 million a year, whatever that number is, it's a hell of a lot more than Isaiah Jackson's going to get paid for the next 4 years. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. And, I will counter you, as I always do, and say that, you're trying to win games and not play money ball. But when you're a contending team, you're kind of playing money ball.
They're not a contending team. We know they're not a contending team.
I'm saying, but when you're gearing up to be
you're
trying to get yourself on that track, operating a smart team is.
Yeah. They should be smart. Okay. What's next? How many more we got to go?
We got I think. Wait, did I send Andrew that one? No. We've got 3 left. We've got.
Okay, let's do it.
I think I sent Andrew the same question twice. I'm sorry. The Brit Knicks wants to know. This is going to be the most fun question. I'll preface it with that because it's okay. I regret to inform you now, and I'm telling you this now because you ask for forgiveness and not for permission, that this is not draft related at all. You can time travel to one historical event as an invisible observer with one person who earned at least one paycheck from the Knicks last season. Where do you go and with who?
All right. So
I
get to pick my time travel buddy, but who I pick has nothing to do with where I'm going.
No. So you're picking a moment that a person that received a paycheck from the Knicks last year was a part of, and you're just.
I thought like I could pick Taj Gibson to go witness, like, I don't know, the signing of the Declaration of Independence or something. Okay, so I'm going to go and witness.
Is that the question? Is that the question? I don't know. Am I missing? You can time travel to one historical event as an invisible observer with one person who earned at least. That would imply. I guess that would.
Okay, I'll answer the question both ways. If I have to go back and see an event from a Knick player's life, I guess I would go back and I would have to look through the game logs of was Julius Randle ever in the building for a great Kobe game or something? Was he there for Kobe's last game?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's something like that. The other one's more fun for me. I would want my time travel partner to be Taj Gibson without question. And what should me and Taj go back and watch? Oh, wait, can I pick Tibbs? It has to be a player?
No.
Someone who received at least one paycheck from the Knicks last season.
I'm very curious what Chris's answer is.
I'm gonna go with Tibbs, and I'm gonna go back and watch. Shit. I want to go back and watch the moment when I don't know, Tex Winter came up with the triangle offense, something like that.
Hey man, I was thinking you were going to say the shot. I wasn't too far off. It was Jordan related.
I mean, part of me wants to be I want to go see dinosaurs with Tibbs, but that's that's honestly the first thing. It's a ridiculous answer.
Mommy, I want to go.
I want to go see Napoleon's Last Stand with Tom Thibodeau. I think that'd be fun. I want to go watch D-Day with Tibbs. There's lots of answers like this that I could come up with.
You can see Tibbs you can see Tibbs coaching throughout, storm the beach,
Yeah, but I would just any historical event with Tibbs, I would happily sign up for.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a way to slip a Ice Age pun in there, but
there you go. That's good.
Go with Kris. So here's where I'm curious, Kris, because of your age, is you mentioned the shot, Michael Jordan, that's before you were born. Is that actually a moment you would want to go see?
Oh, absolutely. But my answer was just going to be, I just want to be in the 2020 draft war room and watch Wes shirtlessly scream for Quickly and trying to get banging on everyone's table, trying to be coach said we need shooters. And then Brock Aller over in the corner, actually ripping hair out at the thought of taking Quickly at 20 or whatever, trying to figure out who he can call to trade down. And then Leon just happy he got Obi over in the corner, I would love to see how that played out, because we've read stories of okay, so Yaron Weitzman had the little bit in his piece where he said Tibbs called Aller hinky condescendingly because he was trying to trade his players for picks. And that's awesome. And that definitely happened a whole lot in the war room where they're debating live who they're investing the next, 4 years in. That was the first moment that popped in my head, even if it's not, the Big Bang or anything. I was going to say that I almost thought about using my answer to make an age joke and being I want to go back and see Kareem because John has so much, experience seeing him live that I just would love to be able to match it. But no, this is my serious answer would be the 2020 draft war room, just because I love Obi and Quickly so much. And I'd love to see like the journey of how they ended up. Like RJ Barrett getting picked at 3 isn't as exciting because that was just like, we knew, but and then one last thing too that just popped in my head. John was talking earlier about Obi being like Mr. Smiles. He won't be. So I hate that I'm even going down this, but if Chris Duarte is a New York Knick, that would be another like incredible teammate, just to have like Duarte is another Mr. Smiles. Like I love the Dominican accent in the interviews. I'm just trying to get open, man. I'm just trying to do what I do. I'm just
easy, but yes, I agree.
I'm Dominican. All right.
Oh, that's right. So you're allowed to.
So I have like every single one of my cousins. All right. No. So he's awesome. He's just such a like, he picked up a basketball for the first time at 13. He's so cool. I don't know. I'm gonna be a Duarte guy wherever he goes.
Him and Obi automatically become the elder statesman of the team.
I know, right?
My answer, John, we talked about, Chris, you even threw a shot at Bill Russell on the last mailbag, but you and I talked about how tough it is to evaluate like historically these 9-team players.
Yeah.
I would want to take Tibbs and go watch like the Russell Chamberlain finals. I'd want to go watch all of them with him just to be like, okay, evaluate this and who should I consider as higher? And that's how I can actually add context to, I saw them play. And I had one of the most brilliant minds basketball's ever seen telling me what to pay attention to.
I just keep thinking of different historic, like going to watch like
John just wants to watch T-Rexes with Todd.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking like which French Revolution would I want to go watch with Tibbs? Crossing the Potomac. Can we get our own boat? Like the building of the pyramids. That would
You're not real.
Awesome. This is all I'm thinking of. Okay, let's go to another basketball question.
Not a real person. Let's go back to the 2020 draft. Alex wants to know, do you guys think the Knicks could reach for a player similar to how no one saw Quickly being, a top 25 pick with 19 or 21? And if so, who would you like it to be?
Would I like it to be? To reach at 19 or 21. Josh Primo would probably be a reach, right? Youngest college player in the draft for sure. I think he might be the youngest player in the draft.
So someone like Vrenz or someone like that might be youngest player. But yeah, Primo at 18 is the youngest college player in the draft.
Yeah, that's like interesting to me because again, I referenced this the other day, like just the notion that their mindset is like, we're going to take a super young raw kid and we're going to develop him because we believe in our system and like we have patience and all that stuff. I could definitely like if they drafted like, again, guys I mentioned before, Bones Highland, Miles McBride, like I could see them definitely take like if they're super high on the idea of like we just want the best wing shooter, 3-and-D guy available, like maybe they take like Kessler Edwards out of Pepperdine. Like I don't know much about Kessler Edwards.
Is that a Prez?
I know Prez likes him because I remember seeing him on Prez's pyramid. JT Thor is another one who they had in for a workout, but his range is like all over the place. I remember there was some talk about him going to the lottery, but again, that's a super young guy. He's not even 19 yet. All the potential in the world, isn't scratching the surface yet. Like something like that, I'd be cool with.
If Thor, with how high I am on this coaching staff, like it would be wrong of me to not be very high on what Thor can do here. You
have Kenny Payne, like the big man whisperer. So like go get a guy might be a really good big man. Thor would be a 6'10" wing. Or even better. Thor would be a 6'10" ball handling wing who can take the ball end to end. But see, this is the nice thing. We don't know what JT Thor is yet because he just he hasn't played that much. He hasn't played that long. We'll see, but he shoots threes, that's cool.
The dribble pull-ups in the mid-range impress me more because that's like, hey, this guy can do a thing.
He can. And he's from Anchorage, Alaska. So tells me Tankathon. Okay.
New York would be quite the change of scenery.
Just a bit, yeah.
I have to say, Deuce McBride, first name that comes to my head. To me, he wouldn't be a reach there at 19 or 21. That's just like a good pick at either of those spots. So that would be, I guess, the reach that I would love the most. Just because I don't see him as a reach there at all.
Yeah, I don't. Again, the definition of what is and isn't a reach, I think, is like very flexible. All right. Last question.
Last question. Cody Knicks. Last question. Last pick of the draft. What are your thoughts about 58? Do they throw that in a trade, sell it, draft someone? He only wants to know so he doesn't have to watch until the very end of the draft, stressing what they will do with a relatively meaningless pick. So I am going to give a shout out to Terry Taylor. Terry Taylor is probably not going to get drafted. He is a senior. He graduated from Austin, PA. Terry Taylor is 6'6". He's a small guy. Led the nation in offensive rebounding. He could do some different stuff. He's worked out for, I think, something like close to 20 teams. He's probably going to be a guy that teams are going to fight over to get on their summer league roster to maybe get, on a two-way. I don't know if he's quite in two-way territory, but he's close. He's a guy that I was put onto, and I watched some tape on him, and he's really impressive. So yeah, Terry Taylor. That would be my answer. Go look him up. I will. I'll look. My board is getting up to over 40 guys now, so we're getting into that territory of Isaiah Todd and Rokas Jokubatis.
You're a better man than me. Should we? I'm trying to think before we get out of here. Maybe should we do one? Let's all. Do we think there will be any trades within the top 5? Andrew, yes or no? Top 6, let's say. Any trades within the top 6?
Cleveland's the one that if I think if they would trade, it would be Cleveland. Trade down to 4 or 5 because they are trying, and it's because they either want to keep Sexton and want to make more assets out of what 3 is, or maybe see if Mobley also falls to 3, then maybe they just trade Sexton anyway. Oh, no, they don't have to trade Sexton.
No, I think they'd have. Well, but then that creates some interesting Jared Allen questions, although those two could theoretically play together. I
have a counter question. Do you buy any of this Cade stuff at 1? The Detroit isn't 100% committed to taking Cade at 1?
No,
or is it just posturing?
I think Was nailed it at the beginning of the last pod. He's he was he brushed it off so quickly. He's it's the same shit every year. Detroit's gonna have a process. This and that is gonna happen, and then they're eventually gonna walk up there and pick Cade Cunningham.
I am buying, and maybe this is a question. I mean, I'll ask you, Chris. I am buying that there's just a lot of Evan Mobley love, and the idea of, this one scout that said he's Chris Bosh on offense and Anthony Davis on defense. It's a lie, but their hype is real is what I'm saying.
If you get to evaluate Mobley like that, then Cade's comp is Luka and he's the number 1 pick. So that's how it is to me. If you're going to throw him that high end of an evaluation, you have to do the same with Cade. And then Cade's comp would be Luka. Jalen Green would be 6'6" Bradley Beal. So these guys would get really, really great. That's why it's the draft. It's not, you're not just getting a comparison directly of a player that exists. You're, getting an investment that you're going to put time into and develop and help this person grow on and off the court and all that. I think Cade is just so the lock at 1. But Mobley is my 2. So a lot of people have Green over Mobley. But I have Mobley closer to Cade than he is Green. And I have Cade 1, Mobley 2, Green 3. Last year I had LaMelo 1, Killian 2A, Edwards 2B. I was so torn that it's just 1, 2, 3, and then Suggs after.
Better question of the picks of the 4 or 5 guys we talk about at the top of this draft, how many go 1 last year?
Ooh, that's a good question.
3.
Cade, obviously. Mobley, obviously. Do Suggs and Green?
Green goes 1.
Okay.
I think the more interesting question is, would Suggs have gone before Edwards? No, he wouldn't have, because Minnesota was making the pick and they seemed to be picking around or with like D'Lo in mind. And Suggs would seem to, I mean, you could come up with arguments about why those two could work together, but it seemed like the mindset that Minnesota was going with was that. So I'll say 3.
Even better question, and this we could wrap up with: how far down this draft would Wiseman have gone? In this current draft? In this draft, are we looking at Wiseman at 21 for the Knicks?
Oh no, I mean that's crazy.
No.
Hold on, if he was put into this draft today,
well, okay, that's true. With the high, I'm forgetting the pre-draft evaluation of him.
I think there's still a chance he goes top 5 if you injected what the thinking was, what consensus, whatever that is before last draft, and you injected it into this draft. I think probably 5, 6, 7, something like that. I think the better question is, with the benefit of hindsight and having witnessed this past year, where would he go? I mean, let's be honest.
I had him 14 on my board last year. Like, I just was never.
You didn't like him, but other people did.
So like, I would definitely go, Moody, Cooper, Bouknight, Wagner, man, over him this year. But like, if you're talking about consensus, he goes over all those guys. This year, I think they would take him over a lot.
I think it's funny because then he probably still ends up with the Warriors at 7.
I think even with hindsight, I think he would if again he was taken off the Warriors after the season he had and he was injected into this draft, I still think he would be a top 10 pick, because someone is always going to talk themselves into, our point earlier, someone's always going to talk themselves into tools and measurables and size and the whole thing. I think the better question is if Obi Toppin, coming off the rookie year he just had, was reinjected into this draft, where would he go? And I think there is a very, very strong chance he would be available for the Knicks at 19.